Welcome to our Thursday night creative convos with Charlotte is Creative. Um, I don't know, have any of you been to our previous creative convo, or is this the first? Susan, I've seen you, Wendy. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, these are, we started this almost a year ago, and these are great opportunities for the creative community here in Charlotte to connect with really amazing local talent that's doing wonderful things. It's a great way to have talks and trainings for an hour on a weeknight where you can join virtually. And we've had topics ranging from how to build a project budget, financial wellness. In a couple of weeks, next week, actually, we have one with the executive director of the Charlotte branch of LISC, who will be talking about evaluating success for small businesses, kind of using data to tell that story. We'll have a tax expert a couple of weeks after. So the topics range. But what is really special is that we also like to sprinkle in things that are good for our well-being. And so I'm really excited to have Wendy here with us tonight. We had a wonderful session with Umayal, who is a CEI alum, Creative Entrepreneurs Initiative alum back in December. And that really helped us kind of reset for the end of the year, to start our year off. And I feel like this is a great time, especially I feel like it's been a really busy spring. I know we say this all the time about every season, but there are a lot of events, there are a lot of opportunities. People, they really kicked off the year with momentum and energy. And it's really nice to allow moments throughout the year to reset and be intentional and thoughtful and reflect and move forward, and find the best way to do that. So, Wendy, we're thrilled that you could join us for this creative convo. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and share a little bit about your history, but you've been a friend of Charlotte is Creatives. We've seen you at so many different events and creative mornings and reciprocity circles, and we're grateful for this partnership and this opportunity to collaborate. And then for all of our guests here tonight, I will drop into the chat the link where you can sign up and register for more creative convos. And also a link where you can look at past conversations that we've had where we have recordings, we have instructor decks. So you're welcome to reflect on this and use these resources, when you have the time to dive in. So Wendy, I'm going to kick it off to you. Thank you again for everyone for being here tonight. Thank you, Wendy. And let me know. I think you can share your screen and you can take it
Sure.
from here.
Great. Thank you so too. And I'm so glad to have everyone here. I've gone to several of these creative combos and they've been just so enlightening. And just like you said, it's a way for us to pour into one another and hold each other up as creative entrepreneurs. And just a little bit about me, my background is in film production. So I went to school at Texas Christian University and got a degree in radio, TV, film. I worked at a PBS station for 5 years and then left production for a long time while I raised my family. And I love production. I've been most recently a production coordinator, a producer, and a freelance location scout, which is my dream job. I love it. But my real passion is kind of this investment in self-care, personal development, helping people spark their creativity through a systematic monthly rhythm of rest and reflection. I've been doing this for 12 years, and I can tell you it's impacted me in so many ways. What I do is I take what I call a personal retreat day once a month. And in that personal retreat day, I do 3 things. I rest deeply, I reflect over the previous month, and then I reorient. I use what I've learned in the previous month to reorient towards the month ahead. And doing this month after month after month creates this rhythm where I'm looking back and looking forward in small increments And it just makes such a difference. So my passion is just sharing this with other people because my heart is really to be a teacher. And I want people to get the benefits that I've gotten out of it myself. It's funny because I was thinking about my career as a freelancer, and then, you know, wanting to encourage more people to take personal retreat days and how they tie in together. And they really do, because about in 2013, we lived from 2013 to 2016. My family and I lived in France for 3 years. And in preparation for living overseas, I took some cross cultural training courses. And one of those was about this. It was about self care. And it was, one of the ideas was about taking this day. So I started doing that in France. And it was so valuable that I continued doing it when we came back, because it was a new season of life. And I was like, okay, we're starting over now. My kids are older. What do I want to do now? What's my next phase of life? And so because I'd been doing this, it was easy for me to kind of, I mean, I don't credit personal retreat days with the whole thing, but to design like, what's my ideal, what's my dream job, and take steps to get there. So it's pretty cool that they tie in, and it's just helped me to really assess what's important. So when I said that it's helped me in so many ways, I'll say it's helped me in seasons where I felt burnt out, stressed out, overwhelmed. It's helped me in seasons where almost the opposite, where I felt like I didn't know what my next step was. I didn't have any direction. I was stuck. It's helped me in seasons of big changes, like becoming empty nesters, moving back from France. And then it's also helped me in seasons where things are going pretty well, and it's just, the status quo is good. So I'd kind of like to get a little, you can put in the chat where you are. I'd like to get a pulse of the room. Like, where are you in that spectrum? What of those words comes to mind for you right now? It could be either stress, overwhelm, it could be stuck, um, lots to juggle. Yeah. I shift between those on the daily. Yes, true, right? And it changes depending on what lens you're looking at. Are you looking through your professional life, your personal life? It changes. Exploring what is next. Good. So kind of a life change, shift in direction. Great. Okay. Awesome. Thanks. Because as I go through this, I'd like you to have that lens in your mind and see, you'll start thinking about ways that you can apply and tailor your personal retreat day to wherever you are. So now I'm going to start sharing my screen. And yep, that's where we are. Everyone sees that? Thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So what I want you to take away from tonight is, I want you to get a sense of like what a personal retreat day practice could look like for you, the benefits of it, and like some tools to help you implement it. So if we leave tonight with that, that would be awesome. So today I'm going to talk about why you need this, because I always start with why. I think that's the foundation. Then go back to like unpack what is a personal retreat day, PRD, and then dive into how to do one. I'll give you some ideas and some tools. So today, I especially want to talk about like why, as creative entrepreneurs, I like Charlotte is creative. We have the mantra that everyone is creative. Everyone is creative, no matter whether you're a creative entrepreneur, you do something creative as a hobby, or it's your job. We're all creative. So why do creative people need this? How does it benefit and spark your creativity? First, we need permission. Sometimes we need permission to rest. And part of that is a societal thing. We think that we always have to be productive, but we do need to give ourselves permission to unplug. It helps us to avoid burnout, and it just gives us room to allow the creative juices to flow when we have enough rest. The second thing is, and you'll see these 3 R's throughout: rest, reflect, reorient, but space to reflect. When I talk about reflection, I'm talking about looking back at the past. So many times when we're busy and we don't take time to make meaning of the events of the past, right? So whether it's celebrating the wins from the past month, hey, I did that. That was great. Even if it's something small, some small step towards a goal, celebrate that. And then also maybe the things that weren't so great. We can always learn from those things. So reflecting, what lessons did I learn? Asking good questions. And that's what I mean by space to reflect. And then a chance to reorient. Creative people sometimes will have a million ideas and everything's great. And which one do I choose? So that can be a good thing, but it can also hinder us if we're trying to do too much. So taking those what you've learned from your time in reflection and applying that to your future. What do I need to let go of that's not serving me right now? Or I've gotten in the weeds on? What can I delegate to other people? All of this is reorienting. Now we're looking toward the future. So I'd like to say we can design our ideal future, even if it doesn't come to pass exactly as we design. We can, in our mind, start to create, this is the direction I want to go, and plan some next steps. So that's the why. Now I'm going to unpack a little bit what exactly a personal retreat day is. And I call it a PRD, and stands for Personal Retreat Day. And again, this is something that I suggest that you do once a month, every month. And I'm going to define each of these terms. So the P stands for personal. That means that your personal retreat day might not look anything like mine. So you get a chance to be curious and be creative and think, what would feed my soul today? What do I need the most this month? So it's personal to you and it can be tailored towards your needs. So remember that the personal retreat day is for you. Retreat. This is the word that needs a lot of definition, because most people, when they think of the word retreat, what comes to mind is you're going away somewhere to a retreat center, or you're going to have a spa day. And all of those things are wonderful, but it's not necessary to spend any money on your retreat day. And it's not necessary to go away to do it. I did it just fine during the pandemic in my 1,000 square foot apartment. And when it was nice, I'd go outside. But the retreat, what I mean by retreat is you start to retreat inward. You start to retreat away from your normal day-to-day routine. And you're giving yourself that space to have the inner conversation with yourself. So retreating away from technology for a time and just being with yourself. You're the most important relationship you will ever have. You're the only person that you're guaranteed to be with the rest of your life, right? So you better get to know that person. And this gives you a chance to do so. And then day. How long is always the question. Do I spend all day on my personal retreat day? Is it an hour, 2 hours? So part of the answer is it is personal, and it is going to depend on your stage of life, your season of life. Do you have small kids? Are you a full-time caregiver? Do you work full-time, or are you a freelancer? So what I highly suggest for the day is that you choose a day on your calendar, and we'll do this at the end. I'm going to have everyone look at their calendar and pick one for the next month. But choose a day on your calendar that you currently don't have any commitments. There's nothing else that's on your calendar that day. Like, I've got to take the dog to the vet at 3 p.m. Because in the back of your mind, that's going to be there. I've got to stop at this time. Giving yourself the luxury of a whole day gives you the space to stop when you want to. And it's just great. So month after month, take one day with no other commitments. Sometimes you have to get creative. In that instance, let's say with maybe you're a single mom of kids. How do you find the time? How do you find the day? Share this with somebody else, share this with a friend, and maybe you can do a play day swap, right? So there's a Saturday, I'll take your kids this Saturday, you take my kids next Saturday, and there's always a way to, if you are really committed to it, there's always a way. Okay. So before we move on to the bulk of it, like how do you do this? Are there any questions so far? No? Okay. All right. So 3 important steps. The first one is to schedule it. And like I said, what I recommend is getting your calendar, finding a day that you don't have any current commitments. Put PRD in big letters. That's your day. Now, obviously, as soon as you do that, what happens? Somebody is going to say, I've got this great opportunity as a freelancer. Wendy, I've got a great commercial. It pays a lot of money. It's on this day. And I have a decision to make then. Okay, do I take the opportunity? Is it something that is of more value at the time than this day for myself? That very well could be the case. If it is, then you just reschedule it, but don't skip it. So schedule it, protect it as much as you can, because this is, like I said, the investment in your most important relationship. The next thing to do is prepare for it. So like the night before, usually I will ask myself a few questions like, what do I need the most tomorrow? Where am I going to do this? How long do I want to devote to the day? Are there any special things I want to do on my personal retreat day? And I'm going to be giving you some ideas in the next few slides. But get mentally prepared. Also get physically prepared. If you're leaving the house, let's say it's a beautiful day, and like it was today in Charlotte, and you want to do your personal retreat day at Independence Park. Get your water ready, get your books and your journal ready, get your headphones if you'll be listening to music, your walking shoes, everything ready the night before. And tell those important people in your life, I'm going to be offline from this time to this time. So get mentally and physically prepared. The third thing is and I do this every time, invite curiosity. Don't overplan your personal retreat day. Make sure you just leave room for whatever transpires to transpire, because when we invite curiosity, that really does help us spark creativity. It opens the door in our minds to be looking for whatever's going to feed our souls. All right. So now the next slides are going to be, I have 8 ideas that I consider them to be kind of like Legos, right? You can take which components you like, what speaks to you. They're interchangeable. Again, this is personal, and you just are able to mix and match. So sometimes my personal retreat day is, if it's in a really busy season, I might just have like a whole afternoon nap and that's it. But I always do have the 3 R's. So I get rest, I make sure I've reflected on the previous month, and I'm reorienting, planning out the month ahead. So those things never, without fail, I always have. Okay, why isn't it moving forward? Okay, so here's an idea. This is how I like to generally start, is move. I used to say exercise, but that has a negative connotation sometimes for people. So movement, moving your body, getting the blood flowing through your body, getting the oxygen to your brain. And this is not like CrossFit or marathon training. This is a gentle exercise, like a nature walk, yoga class, stretching, anything that just gets you prepared and gives you some energy that you need. Because a lot of the personal retreat day will be spent using mental energy. So I have found over the years that creating that physical energy by moving my body first creates the mental energy as well. So I'd like to make this a little interactive. So if you are willing to drop into the chat, what are some of your favorite movements? Dance. For some people, it's dance. Anything else that comes to mind? Swimming, yes. A salsa class. Have you been to the long room? Is that you? Yeah, it's on my list. That's great. And hiking, yeah, hiking definitely. Taking those nature walks, yoga. Perfect. Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Okay. The next thing is I was really trying to find a word that means to be inspired. And I can't find the right verb that I'm looking for. So if anyone has any ideas, this slide used to say read, but not everybody is a reader. So you may like to listen to inspiring music or a podcast. You may like to read scripture, poetry, whatever brings you some fresh inspiration. I'm a big reader, so I read almost every day. In the mornings, I'll read like a personal development book or just an inspirational literature. So yeah, maybe exploration. I know it's really odd that we don't have a verb for to be inspired rather than, just get inspiration. So what I'll do on my personal retreat day, sometimes I will be reading a book that has an application to it. Like, has anyone read The Artist's Way or gone through that program, The Artist's Way? Yeah, I see some nods. So she has so many great ideas with the tasks on every chapter, and more tasks than you could possibly do in a week, or at least, I mean, it would be overwhelming to try to do them all. So when I went through it, what I would do is I would mark my Artist's Way book with a little sticky note when I came across a great task that I wanted to do that would be appropriate to do in a personal retreat day. And so then I would take that book with me to my personal retreat day and do that task. So that was a way that I kind of got more inspiration and got more out of what I was reading. So that's one idea. I'd love to hear if there are any books that really speak to you. Put those in the chat too, especially as anything that sparks creativity. I also recently read Rick Rubin, The Creative Act. That was so good and really tied in a lot to what I'm teaching here, because he talks a lot about giving yourself space, getting out of being stuck in a creative rut, and giving yourself space was a big part of it. So I was like, yes, Rick Rubin. So any other book ideas or inspirational ideas, you can put those in the chat. Yeah, yes, that's good. Flipping through photograph books. Are those like your own photo albums or just photography books? Yep, good. The Nature Reset. Okay, I don't know that one. Awesome. Let's check it out. Radiant Rainbows by Jessica Swift. I don't know that one either. I always get great ideas from this. Very good. Okay, cool. All right. So, and again, these are in no particular order, but I did put this in an order that I typically will go through: movement, then inspiration, mental inspiration. And then I spend some time in reflection. So I found the best tool for me to reflect over the previous month is to ask myself questions. So I have like lists of reflection questions. I wish I had it with me. My daughter, for my birthday, gave me a set of cards that have reflection questions on them. So like a deck. So I was so happy because now I have new ones. But ask yourself questions like, what did I learn last month? What was a conversation that I had that was really impactful, and what did I take away from that? I love to make a list of, lists of like gratitude lists, joy lists, things that I did that brought me joy, um, wins. My husband and I actually do weekly wins where we sit down together and we talk about the week and write down you know, what were wins. And it's amazing because we're like, oh my gosh, we have like 20 things. That's awesome. So all of those are ways to reflect by asking good questions. Okay. Because what you want to do is, this is a rhythm of rest and reflection. Once you get into the habit of having personal retreat days once a month, I've found that that's a really good interval of time, because approximately 30 days is long enough to look back and see patterns, but it's not so long that you get overwhelmed. And the same thing with looking forward. We all, it's like the New Year's resolutions curse, right? We look at the whole year and what do I want to do this year? What's my New Year's resolution? And then by the time you get there, it's just like, oh, that's just so daunting, right? So when you start to create this month by month rhythm, this 30 days of looking back, 30 days of looking forward is very manageable. And you will start to see patterns over time. Record. So all of those questions you just asked yourself, all the lists you made, record those in some way. It might be a journal. I love to journal as much as I love to read, and I will very frequently just write in a journal, write down those lists. But again, just like not everyone is a reader, not everyone likes to physically journal. So it may be a Google Doc that you keep. It might be voice recording. So I've even done that before, being on a nature walk and just like did a voice memo of something that I had this aha insight. But recording in some way, because since you're doing a rhythm of rest and reflection, you're going to want to look back at what you wrote down or recorded the month before. It can be even recorded in very creative ways. And I have an example, and it's actually Christina. She does these collages, and this is one of her collages, which is so cool. I'm like, oh, I love it. So Christina, do you do this with the month ahead in mind, or do you do this with the month behind?
Yeah, I do the month ahead, but it's probably grounded in like what I need, like what I needed in the month behind that I didn't actually get. And so I ask myself the question when you get to it of like, what do I need most in this month ahead? And then I kind of just flip through and see what resonates with me. So I don't intentionally pick things. I kind of just let it rest there in my subconscious. But
Isn't
yeah.
this awesome? I love it.
Well, thank you for including. That's very nice.
Oh, well, I every time you post one, I'm like, this is awesome. So she's yeah, I appreciate you, Christina, always tagging me on these. So you could do a collage as an example of things that you learned or the insights that you had from the month prior. Or you could do like Christina does and do a collage of things that you want to bring and manifest in the month ahead. So now that we have taken time to look back, reorienting is all about looking forward. So now we're looking at the month ahead. And again, my tool for this, I've got a couple of tools. I've got the calendar, and I've got more, note taking and lists, goal setting, things like that. So with the calendar, I always like to take a look at it and say, okay, is this month ahead? Is it already slammed full, or do I have lots of margin? Because and a lot of times it's just in between. It's neither. But that helps me to reorient. And I use the word reorient purposefully because as you see in this picture, there's a compass here. If you've been doing this rhythm of rest, reflection, reorientation month after month, like I teach, you will know the path that you're on. You will know the direction you want to head. And it's just making micro changes where you've strayed off course. Or, as we talked about at the very beginning, if you're in one of those stage of life changes, you know, a move, a new marriage, empty nesters, you know, a new creative project that gets dropped in your lap, then it's not necessarily going to be just, you know, tweaking the compass, making sure you're still on that path. It could be reorienting to a whole new thing. But having this rhythm helps you in either case, because it's one thing to talk about like what you are doing. It's another thing to, in this personal retreat day, think about who you are and what you're becoming. So values that you have, you can think about, reflect on those and make sure that you know what those are. Write those down, record those values, record like your life mission statement. There's so many applications in a personal retreat day. So, and if you know who you are, then when those major life changes come along, or those decisions, do I take this job or this job? Then you will be able to filter and make those decisions more wisely. All right, so reorienting. Okay, this is something I love to do in a personal retreat day almost every time, is do some kind of creative play. And if you are an artist, let's say as a job, sometimes that becomes a job, right? Okay, I've got to the commission, this piece is commissioned, I've got to get it done. And sometimes as professional artists, we lose the joy and the play in our art. So this is allowing you some space to just be free again. My discipline, you know, I don't go and make movies in my personal retreat day or anything like that, but I will like swing on a swing set and be childlike. You know, I'm not a very good well, I shouldn't say that. I haven't developed my artistic like drawing skills. I have a growth mindset. I could if I wanted to, if it was important to me. But, you know, I do like doodling and just, you know, kind of, there's something about doodling on the page that like frees up your mind mentally. So taking some time to find the joy again in your art, in your creative endeavor. This is something that's just a beautiful thing to do on your personal retreat day. And it brings back the energy and sparks that creativity once again. Okay, here's one of our 3 R's. We had reflection and reorientation. Rest, I put this towards the end. Again, there's no particular order, but for me, I'm tired after all of that mental activity. So I like to do it in this order most days, is to just take time to take a nap, but it doesn't have to be a nap. So rest can be any activity that is restful to your soul as well. So sometimes I might take another walk, just a very slow, mindful walk, and just pay attention to nature around me, what I see, what I hear. To me, that's very restful too. It doesn't have to be lying down. But you do want to give yourself the space if you need it to take that extended nap. So what are some restful activities or non-activities? Put those in the chat. I'd like to hear what you think is a restful activity, restful for your body or your soul. Meditation, absolutely. Anything else? All right. The pressure to think of something. All right. So Yeah, getting some sun. That's great. Oh, this time of year, it's so good. It's so good. Just get out. I have a really nice back patio that we fixed up last year, and it's just got plants all around, and I love to sit out there. Yeah. So Christopher said watching something. So like, yeah, so this is, I'm gonna kind of go to the another slide because I think it's the next one. Let's see. Yes, indulge. So this pairs really well with those restful activities that are kind of our fun go-to thing. I love ending my personal retreat day with something just indulgent. It could be a margarita, an ice cream cone, like is pictured here, or that show, that guilty pleasure. Like I'll admit it, I like watching The Bachelor. So this is a day that I could do that guilt-free. Like, this is my personal retreat day. I can do what I want. Yes, and when you've spent so much time in creating in your business, you just want to let it go. So that is awesome. Great. So what are some other go-to treats for you guys? You can put that in the chat. What would be a reward? Dinner with friends. That's a great one. And you know why? It's because you've spent all this time by yourself, right? Being introspective. And especially for those who are extroverts, like, okay, I've had enough of me. I need to go out with some people. So that's a great reward. I do like to call this a reward, this indulgent treat at the end of the day, because researchers found that like when you reward yourself for something that you've done, it really cements the habit. So you think of this the next time you schedule your following PRD, you're like, oh yeah, that was so much fun. I remember this fun thing I did. So even if the mentally reflection and reorientation, it's wonderful and so helpful, but sometimes it's hard work. Ending with a treat at the end of the day, having that really nice restful nap really cements it and makes you want to come back to it next time. All right. So go to bed early. I love that too. All right. So now we are going to do, this is a tool that I have that combines reflection and reorientation. We're not going to do this whole thing, don't worry. But this has been so helpful for me. It's kind of a health assessment grid. And if you look down the column here on your left, right? Yeah, left. We are holistic beings, but we can divide ourselves into certain spheres, right? So we have a physical body, we have our mental and emotional health. We have a spiritual side, whether that's, a faith or just your soul, whatever feeds your soul. You also have, it's interesting, mental health, but also intellectual, lifelong learning, relationships. And then you have, all these other spheres. You may have a career, you may have a creative project you're working on, your financial health, so many things that you could take a look at. So what I do on a personal retreat day is I take this grid, and in each of these categories, or at least in most of these categories every month, I'll look at a review of the month before. What's working, what's not working. So for example, physical health, we'll just go across the columns here. So in a review of my physical health, I might consider, am I getting adequate sleep? Am I eating a healthy diet? Maybe, am I drinking too much alcohol or having too much sugar? Am I exercising? All of those things. Am I keeping my doctor's checkups, or did I postpone that dentist appointment again? So what's working? Then the next column down, you will look at, I call it dream. So you'll look ahead to the next month and just brainstorm some possibilities based on your review. What could you possibly work on? Well, yeah, I probably should reschedule that dentist appointment. I do want to try something new, exercise. I'm getting in a rut, whatever. So write down a few possibilities, 1, 2, 3, 4, however many come to mind. Then the next thing, the important thing is to choose just one, because if you tried to make changes in all of these areas, then you would be setting yourself up for failure because it's just too much. So either 0 or 1 things in each of these areas. If you are happy with the status quo, hey, things are going well, I don't need to make any changes, I feel fine in this area, then don't put anything. But if you have done your brainstorming and something is really screaming at you, yeah, I really need to do this. Relationships, for example. Oh, I really need to call my mom more. That comes up for me every once in a while. So I'll put that down. And then you have, once you've chosen something, then you make a plan. So what steps am I going to do to make this happen? Let's say I've been really sedentary and I want to start exercising. Well, I really want to try yoga. Now I was inspired. I want to try yoga. So how am I going to do that? Am I going to do that at home with an app? Am I going to find a yoga studio? How many times a week am I going to go? When am I going to go? Am I going to take a friend or do it by myself? So make a plan. So what I'd love to do is have you, if you have a piece of paper, you can download this grid, but I'll tell you how later. But for now, you can just get a piece of paper, choose one of these areas, whatever is speaking to you right now, and then go through the review, dream, choose, and plan. And I'll give you a few minutes. Are there any questions? Does anyone have questions? Everyone can see it okay? Okay, great. I'm going to put myself on mute and give us a chance to fill this out. And again, just one. We're not doing the whole thing. Give me a thumbs up if you're finished, if you're still working. Okay. All right. Okay, so thanks, Christopher. Got yours too. All right, I'd love for one or two people to share. So if anyone wants to come off of mute and share what you put down.
Um, I focus on the relationships, more specifically with my siblings.
Good.
What's not working, not calling is not working. Several possibilities for now. I just had one, find ways to remind myself to reach out to them. Choose one thing I'll work on, talking to all of them at least once every 2 weeks. And what steps? Unfortunately, setting an alarm or adding them to a calendar. And sometimes it just might simply be, it might be on the way to work or whatever the case may be, but at least effort goes a long way.
That's great. Thank you, Christopher. That was perfect. Yeah. And I think you said, unfortunately, putting them on a calendar. I think that's perfectly fine. You know, it's once you get that in the habit, then you won't have to anymore forever. But I really commend you to invest in those relationships that are important to you with your siblings. That's great. Thank you for sharing. Did anyone else choose a different category and want to share? And you don't have to share.
I'm only laughing because I chose career and it's being recorded, but
I won't post this part. We'll cut it off before
okay.
before
Well, I
the
was thinking,
sharing.
it's like reframing, right? So I'm on a new team. We lost a lot of people last year. So I think it's like what's working has been that reframe, right? Like not comparing it to the old team, not comparing my new leader to the leader I had before, which we had a very great relationship. What's not working is probably some of the anger I'm holding on to. So if I look inward and not about the company, the anger I'm holding on to, like the decisions from last year. And so some things I brainstorm, obviously the go-to is like update the resume, look for other opportunities. But some other ones, which I thought was interesting, when you dig deeper, come up, like look for joy outside of work. It doesn't have to just be your joy at work. And then spend some time shifting the narrative to gratitude of what joy does, like the work does afford me to be able to do, like live in this house and, collage, buy materials,
Yes,
things like that.
that's right.
And so I think like the choosing is, I think that gratitude list resonated with me when you said that earlier, is to create a gratitude list. And so the plan to do that and pick out one of my pretty journals and some of my new markers and do that.
Great.
So that doesn't need to be
Fantastic.
cut. You can keep that in.
Thank you so much, Christina. Thanks for both of you for sharing. I just get so much joy of hearing how everyone else applies this tool. Isn't it amazing though? It just took a couple of seconds, really, maybe 2 or 3 minutes to do one of these. And it's so impactful because it really does help you focus on like one small thing I can change and implement immediately this month now. So it's been a valuable tool. Okay. So just a couple of next steps. What we're going to do now is take out your calendar and I want you to find a blank space, one blank day in the next 30 days. It can be this weekend, it could be all the way until late May, but find, if you have your phone calendar or your computer calendar or anything, just find a day and reserve it, mark it as your personal retreat day. Again, does that mean you have to spend an entire day doing stuff like this? No. But if you get your rest in, if you get a chance to reflect over the previous month and you get to reorient towards the month ahead, it could be an hour, it could be 2 hours, it could be a full day if you have the luxury of that, but just try it. Baby steps. And then the next month, schedule it again. And the next month, schedule it again. So that's what I ask you to do. If that grid tool was helpful, the way you can get it is on my website. It's personalretreatday.com. And there's a little pop-up menu to sign up for my monthly newsletter. You can download the grid that way. That's the easiest. And then if you are getting, I try to write the newsletter so that you get valuable information out of it, but you can always opt out after you download the grid. And then if you are a journaler, I did publish this with some funds from the HUG grant. So that was so cool. So this is a guided journal just for personal retreat days. It's not a daily journal. It's designed to be used once a month. So it has spaces for reflection and has reflection prompts. And each month is slightly different. It's not overwhelming. There's a lot of space just to do what you want to do. So I made it very user friendly, and anyone, even if they're not a journaler, can benefit from it. And then there's space to plan and ways to record what you did for rest, what you did for creative play, all of those things. So you can contact me for information on how to get that if you think that would be valuable for you. My email is wendy@personalretreatday.com. So that is all I have. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to, the next 5 minutes or so, take any questions.
I would like to thank you for sharing the concept with us. I think I've always thought about, well, downtime. I need to have some downtime day. But as you know, with everyone else, it's, with everything in life, it's, you get at mental health, maybe an hour if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing this, because I think that, given my answer earlier, that I shift from all of those initial places you mentioned at the beginning of the call, stuck some days, really energetic and moving forward, other days perhaps overwhelmed at the options, other days. I think this could be a nice way to help with that. So thank you very much for the time.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And yeah, I think it really, just give it a try. I think you'll find it impactful after the very first one, but the magic comes when you do this as a rhythm over and over again. It's really life-changing, because you get more and more out of it the more you do it. So I
Wendy,
give it a try.
does your family do it? Do they all practice?
In their own way, yes. So not the same way. Again, it's personal, right? Personal retreat day. So my husband definitely doesn't like do all the journaling stuff like that.
Yeah.
That I do. But yeah, in his own way, he's really adopted, like, yeah, I need to take, and really pretty recently, I'd say, like in the past 2 years. So he's finally caught the bug. He sees how it's impacted me, and he's done it too. So, yeah.
That's really great. I think for me, I'll just say it's hard to kind of figure out what like a whole day would look like, just given,
Sure,
all of this. But I think that maybe there are ways to like incorporate my family into the creative play element, or finding ways, if they join at the end of the day, then what are those elements where it's a little different from our regular routine.
Exactly.
So maybe
and I would say that you just start small and maybe do a personal retreat hour.
Yeah.
And just see.
Yeah.
I think that I've been asked before, like, what's the difference between a personal retreat day and just like a self-care day or a mental health day or a day off? And it's really intentionality. So bringing that intention, I'm going to use this time for this purpose to reflect and reorient. That makes the difference, because yeah, most of us on our day off, we just do the binge watching and all that, or get the yard work done, all the stuff that we got to do that we can't fit in other days. And that's not what a personal retreat day is. You want to step away from it all. Yeah. All right.
Well, we thank you so much for sharing and dropping this wisdom. And
thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, I think we've all left rejuvenated. At least I have. I feel inspired to make it happen.
I have another
Come here.
Yay! All
Thank
right.
you
Well,
everyone for
he
joining.
does too. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll send an email out with the links to future registrations and past convos and things like that too. So have a beautiful Thursday.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Wendy. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.